Hey guys, what's up? I am your teacher for today. And today we're going to tackle all about inductive approach. But before that, I'm going to tell you the learning objectives. So, at the end of the lessons, the students are able to: number one, identify grammar rules by observing patterns and sentences or example provided. Number two, develop a positive attitude toward learning grammar through exploration and discovery. And number three, create sentences using the grammar rules they have discovered in their own writing or speaking activities. And now, let's delve into the topic. So, what is inductive approach? In inductive approach, inductive teaching encourages students to discover rules through example rather than being directly taught. So in inductive approach, we provide specific examples before we are going to general rule. This process promotes active learning, critical thinking, and greater retention of knowledge. Inductive reasoning is a method of drawing conclusion by going from the specific to general. It's usually contrasted with deductive reasoning, where you go from general to a specific conclusion. We have here the 5 key terms to identify inductive approach. Number one, it is learner-centered. Number two, it recognizes pattern. Number three, there's a rule discovery. And number four, we have also the active learning, and last but not the least, experiential. When we are going to talk about learner-centered, in here, the students are given examples first and then encouraged to discover grammar rules on their own. As for pattern recognition, learners observe and analyze patterns and language use. And for rule discovery, students deduce the rules from the examples rather than being explicitly told the rules up front. And for active learning, it promotes deeper understanding through exploration and critical thinking. And for experiential, it emphasizes learning by doing, which leads to longer retention of rules. In inductive approach, we have to remember that there are advantages and disadvantages. So, under the advantages of inductive approach, we have it promotes critical thinking and engagement, encourage active participation and ownership of learning. As what I've said, it is learner-centered. So as for disadvantages, it may take longer to reach understanding as it requires more effort or it is time consuming. And it might also can lead to confusion if students struggle to find patterns. For you to be able to further understand the inductive approach, I provided 5 examples. So in teaching, we have here teaching present continuous tense. So we have she is running in the park. They are cooking dinner. I am reading a book. In here we have the guide observation. I'm going to ask, what do you notice about these sentences? What form of verb is being used? And when is it happening? So we have the rule discovery. Students here identify that the verbs forms describe action happening right now and use s, or are with the verb ending in ing. And under this, I let the students examine examples to figure out when to use the present continuous tense. By observing the structure, they learn to identify it in context rather than just being told the rule. And we have here the second example. We are going to teach countable and uncountable nouns. We have I have 2 apples. He drank some water. There are many books on the table. In here, what I'm going to do is to ask what kind of nouns can be counted and which one can't. Can you identify a difference in how we use words like some and many? So the students here discovered that students deduced their nouns like apples and books can be counted, while nouns like water cannot. We have here also the third example. In here, we teach subject-verb agreement. So we have here, the dog runs fast. The dogs run fast. She is happy. They are happy. Let us now engage with observation. I'm going to ask the students what changes depending on whether the subject is singular or plural. What do you notice about the verb forms? So let's encourage rule creation. So in here, students observe the singular subject use different verb forms than plural ones. They derive the rule, like singular subject take singular verbs, while plural subject take plural verbs. Here, students actively work out the rule of subject-verb agreement by comparing how the verb changes in the example. This makes them more engaged and help them remember the rule. Let us now proceed to the fourth example. We have teaching modal verbs like can, could, may, might. So in here we have she can swim. He might come to the party. We may leave early. You could help me with this. Let us now facilitate observation. I'm gonna ask the student, what do these words indicate? How did they change the meaning of the sentence? In here, students figure out that modal verbs express ability, possibility, or permission. They state the rule, modal verbs like can, could, may, and might modify the meaning of main verb, indicating ability or possibility. Rather than listing what modal verbs mean, I encourage students to think critically and derive the meaning based on examples. This empowers them to understand how modal function in sentences. And here, the fifth or the last example, we have teaching comparatives and superlatives. We had, this car is faster than that one. She is the tallest in the class. My bag is heavier than yours. I'm gonna ask the students to analyze. What do you notice about how adjective change when comparing two things or more? Can you see the pattern? So in here, students observe that for the two items, adjective get er or comparatives, and for three or more, they get est or superlative. They articulate the rule. Comparatives are used for the objectives, superlatives for three or more. Instead of directly teaching them the rules for comparative and superlative, I present examples and let them infer the rule themselves. This helps students see how the language works in context. In a nutshell, each example follows the inductive approach, where I present students with examples, guide them to observe and analyze patterns, and allow them to formulate the rule themselves. This approach makes the learning process more interactive and engaging. That is all for my topic about inductive approach.
Thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something about my discussion. Here are some references of my content.